I'm Miss Grace, and today we're going to learn how to weave. Weaving is a really old art form, and originally weaving was developed to make clothes, to make blankets, but most importantly, it was invented to make tapestries. And so tapestries are works of art that go on the wall. They don't have to have anything depicted in them, like people or animals, but they often did and were used as art. But sometimes they were just flat colors or solid blocks of colors or lines or stripes. But they were used a long time ago because it would get very cold in homes that were made of stone or made of wood with not a lot of insulation like we have in modern homes. And so they would put these tapestries up on the wall to kind of keep in the heat, to trap the heat, and to make it a little more cozy in their houses. Today we're not going to make a tapestry that could cover a whole wall. That would take a very long time. Though, with the skills you learned today, you could if you wanted to. So we're going to talk first about the tools we need to weave to make a little mini tapestry. And what you need is what's called a loom. So the warp are the strings that go up and down, and the weft are the strings that you weave through. They're the side-to-side strings. This is a simple loom made out of cardboard. I've taken a piece of cardboard, I've cut tiny slits along the top and the bottom, and then I've hot glued two little pieces of cardboard at the top and the bottom to kind of lift my warp strings up and make it a little easier for me to get my weft woven through later, and I'm going to show you that. If you don't have any cardboard at home, or maybe you struggle a little bit with some of the more complicated crafting skills, you also can make a loom from really simple stuff. What I did here is I took a book, and since it was a book that I liked a whole lot and I didn't want to risk getting tape on it, I wrapped it just like a little present. I wrapped it up like a present, and then I wrapped my strings around my, my book. What I've used here is some pencils. Instead of pieces of cardboard like on this one, I used pencils to hold up my warp so that I can get my weft in here. You also, if you don't have wrapping paper or big paper to wrap a book, you can do it right on the book. And so for this one, I stuck my string in the pages of the book like a bookmark, and I wrapped it around, and then I stuck the string at the end in the pages of the book like a bookmark. So you don't even have to use any tape if you don't want. You really just need something flat and sturdy and some yarn. So let's get started. I'm going to use my cardboard loom because it's nice and easy to see because I have this bright white yarn and this darker brown cardboard, so there's some nice contrast. You can see that easier. And I'm going to use a bright orange yarn to start. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get a piece of yarn that's manageable for you. So what I like to do is I like to measure out a yarn that is my arm length, my wingspan if I were a bird. And I cut that off. Snip! You can use scissors, or if you have a grown-up nearby and you would rather your grown-up use the scissors, they can cut off some pieces for you. You just want pieces that are your wingspan. So the first thing I want to do is I want to tie off, or tie on. That's when I get started. I want to make sure that it doesn't come undone, all my beautiful work on my weaving tapestry. So I'm going to tie it on the first string up near the top. For me it's the bottom, but when I hold it up it'll be the top for you. And all I did was tie a little knot right here in the top corner. Perfect. Alright, go ahead and do that with your yarn, and then we'll move on to the next step. If you need to pause it, you can. Alright, so we've tied on, and I have the end of my yarn. The way that you weave is you go over, under until you get to the end. So I'm going to take my yarn, and I'm going to go over. Well, I'm going over this one because I am tied to it. So I'm going to go under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. And when I pull it through, my first row of woven weft. And I have woven my weft with my warp, which is really fun to say. So now I can start my next line. Since I had just gone under, can you guess what my next time, the next loop through will be? Yes, I just went under, so it's going to be over to start the next one. So when I go over, going the other way, what it does is it makes this loop kind of hug it, so it doesn't come undone. If I were to go under again, it would undo my last one. If I were to go under, see, I'll show you. If I were to go under, which I shouldn't do, if I go under this one, when I pull it through, oh no! It undid my work. So, if you always want to pick up the opposite of what you just did. So I just went under, which means that I start with an over. Over, under, over, under. So I'm going to go over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. And I'm going to pull it through. And you'll see my second line. Now, look at this. Looks all crazy and wackadoodle, right? So what I want to do is I want to make sure I keep them really nice and straight, so I can use my fingers to do that. And I also want to make sure that I'm not pulling too tight, because that would make my warp strings all wonky. I don't want to do that. And you can see now that I have two lines, that they're opposite. So on the strings where my first one went over, my second one goes under. And that's how you kind of create the weave, is what it's called when it's all done. That's the texture that you create, the weave of this tapestry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get all the way to the end of this orange piece really quickly, and I'm going to show you how you can add on another color, or you can continue with more string of the same color, because you're going to run out eventually. So I'm going to do that really quickly, and then we're going to cut back to the end of it. You don't have to watch me go over, under, over, under. In the meantime, you can practice your over, under skills if you want to give it a pause. Okay, awesome. So I've gone ahead and I've woven the rest of this orange string, and you can see that I have this little tail, and I left off at an under, which means I'm going to go over next. But first I got to add some more of my yarn. So you could continue with the same color that you were using before. You would make a wingspan piece that you would cut, or I'm going to show you how you can change colors. And it's fun sometimes in a tapestry to mix up not only color but texture. So I used a really thin yarn before, and this time I'm going to use a kind of twisted, thicker yarn. But I chose something that has a little bit of orange in it, so it'll look nice with it. It's kind of fall. So again, I got a wingspan piece, and it's super easy. All I do is tie these two pieces together. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, Miss Grace, I don't want to have these weird pieces that are on the end sticking out, and it's going to look weird, and I don't like it. I'll show you what to do with those, because we're going to tuck them and weave them so that they're on the back of our tapestry. So you tie them together. I like to do a double knot just to make sure it's really secure. And then I cut these kind of short, not all the way short, not where I can't grab them because I still want to be able to tuck them, but just short so that they're out of my way. You can also leave them long. It's fine. Cool. So I've added on my next string, and I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing. I left off on an under, so I'm going to go over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and I'm going to pull through. Pull through. And again, you want to make sure you straighten up your weft. Make sure everything is tidy, and that you're not pulling too hard on the sides. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and weave the rest of this, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how you finish off your tapestry. Cool. All Alrighty, so I've finished with this second color. What I would usually do, and what you'll do, is you'll continue and you want to fill it up all the way to the bottom. But I want to be able to show you how to finish your tapestry. So I've got this loose end, and I'm going to end it the way that I started it. So I started it off, if you remember, by tying onto this first string. I'm going to finish it off by tying off onto my end string. So I made sure that I had enough string, enough yarn left over, enough of my weft to tie. So I'm going to tie that into a little knot. It's getting all fuzzy because it's a fuzzy yarn, but that's okay. Oof, Miss Grace is having a hard time tying a knot. All right, it's okay. Sometimes even grown-ups struggle knot tying, stuff like that. Stuff you're just learning when you're a kid. We learned when we were kids, but sometimes we still struggle. Whoop. But if you persevere, you can get it. I got it. So I tied it off in a nice little knot right there. And what I can do with those tails, that's what they're called, these loose pieces, like where we changed colors and where we're ending and where we started. So I can weave those and hide them. So I would stick this tail and I kind of poke it through and stick it on the back. This one I would do the same thing. So stick this through, kind of stick it, pull it. And you're going to hide it on the back. Same thing with these. And what can be helpful to do that is kind of a popsicle stick. Or you could take like a dull pencil or a Q-tip. Something that's not going to stab your threads, but has kind of a rounded or blunt end. But you see that I went ahead and tidied those up. Now, I could leave it on this board, and I could have this board as a piece of art, or I can take it off. And the way that you take it off, so you have to remove your warp, and you have to be really careful. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut our warp on the back, and we're going to tie our groupings together so they don't come undone. So I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to cut these strings. I want to kind of keep them in their little notches so they don't get away from me. And I'm going to take them. Whoop, I'm going to undo my tape here. And I'm going to tie them together. So these two at the end, I'll tie in enough. Tie these in a knot. You might need a grown-up's help at this point. It's okay. Or you might want to practice your knot tying. Miss Grace has to practice her knot tying. Okay, so I've tied them all in knots. I've just done a single knot for now because I still need to take it off of the board itself, which means I'm going to unhook them from these notches, which means that I'm going to have some loose thread here. So I left it as a single knot so I can pull it tight when I come off. So I'm going to pull this one off of its little notch, and I've already got my knot ready, so I just pull it tight. And then if you want to add a second one, you can go ahead and add a second one. Keep it nice and tight. Pull this one off. Tie it. Second knot. Pull this one off. Tie it. Second knot. Okay, I'm tying the last knot right here on my tapestry. This is a tiny little baby tapestry, but it's still pretty cool. So now I have all this fringe. So I have these warp strings that are too long. I can do a lot of things with these. So I could cut these off. I could keep them because I kind of like a fringy tassel at the bottom. I could use these top ones to tie onto a popsicle stick or a pencil or a dowel, and then I could hang it. So you can do a lot of things with them. It's up to you as the artist. But the only thing that determines how wide or how long your tapestry is the size of your loom. So if you want your tapestry to be a lot wider, you need more warp strings. So you need a wider loom. If you want it to be longer, you need a longer loom. Looms can be any size. You're really just limited based on the amount of yarn you have and how big of a flat surface. So you could take something really big, like maybe a cookie sheet, like a tray that you bake cookies with. You could use a piece of tape and wrap it around just like we did this one. So that would make you a really, really, really big loom. But for me, I like to make little tiny ones. Well, that's all. I hope you enjoyed learning how to weave and about the art of tapestry. Have a good day.